Tuesdays with Alvin once again. This time it's actually on Tuesday, which is great. Today we actually don't really have any new product to show off. If you guys are interested in seeing what's new in the fountain pen world, definitely check out atlasstationers.com. Scroll down to our new arrivals section and you can see all of what's new. Also want to let everybody know in the chat that you can use the discount code TikTok for 10% off of your next order. You can use that as many times as you want, so it's a great thing. And then you can also use the discount code LC40 and get a huge 40% discount code on any closeout items. So you can find that the last chance / closeout page on atlasstationers.com. And instead of using TikTok, use LC40 and you'll get a big discount on pens that we're clearing out to get ready for all the new pens coming out this year. Awesome. So today's stream, we are going to be focusing on my top favorite inks of all time. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Of course, if you guys have any questions at all, let me know. And then towards the end of the stream, I'm going to be writing out people's names. So if you stay tuned to the end of the stream, you can get your name written as beautifully as I can write it. And I'll give you guys time to screenshot your names and share it with your friends and family. Awesome. Let's get into it, y'all. The Rizzler. I don't know how much Riz I have. Thank you, though. All right. So the swatch cards that we use here at Atlas, since I normally don't really talk about these, this is the same paper that Coloring uses. Coloring is a system for swatching inks that we sell here at Atlas. So it's the same exact paper quality that you're getting from there. Just so you guys know, if you want something that's kind of equivalent, that's what you'd be looking for, is the colorings on Atlas. Okay, first up, let's start with maybe a simpler ink. So one of my favorite red inks of all time is Colorverse Dirty Red. I have a couple of red inks that I quite enjoy, but this one just mimics red roses so beautifully that it is, definitely a top contender for me. So let's go ahead and do a swatch. Let me try to get a good angle for y'all here. All right. And I am using a calligraphy dip pen today. Colorverse. So Colorverse is a South Korean ink company that's relatively new to the industry. I started seeing their inks on the market kind of around 2017, I believe. So they've been around for a while, but I really enjoy the Colorverse inks because they are such high quality while still being a great affordable price point. As we saw with the dip pen, the ink sticks so well to the dip pen. You can see here, it's not falling off. It sticks very securely. That's a great way to tell if the inks are going to be good, wet writers. Typically when an ink is a drier writer or very lightly saturated, it won't really stick to dip pens. So it's a great way for me to know right off the bat if an ink is going to be good for me, since I use, mostly flex pens and calligraphy pens. Let's do a big swatch. I just realized I forgot to write the name on this, so I'm going to go back and do that. Thank you, Julie. Zav Cars, how often do you have to stir the ink? With an ink like this, never. This is just a solid ink color. There's no pigmentation. There's no shimmering in this ink, so never. But if, for example, let me write this out and let me show you another ink that I am going to show off, and I'll answer that question. Colorverse Dirty Red. Awesome. By the way, guys, you can find all of these inks on atlasstationers.com. If you go to the specials tab of our website, there is going to be a little section called Tuesdays with Alvin where you can show off everything that I recommend, or you can see everything that I show off and recommend. But Zav Cars, it's a great question. So, for example, this ink that I'm going to show off a little bit later is an ink that you do have to stir. If you look at the bottom of the bottle, all of this is the shimmering material. It's called mica. If you guys are familiar with makeup at all, this is the same material that makes makeup glitter, so like eyeshadows and things like that. So if I give this bottle a nice jostling, you can see all of that gorgeous flake mixing in with the ink. I mean, look at that. It's really fun to mix these bottles and just kind of watch them. Maybe see it a little bit better on the back. Look at that. This bottle was actually a little bit expensive in terms of fountain pen ink. I believe it was around $30 for the bottle. So, you know, not crazy expensive, you know, not outlandish, but in terms of fountain pen ink, it is one of the more expensive options. This was the exclusive from about 2 years ago. So you can't get this one anymore, but I definitely wanted to show it off to basically talk about limited edition inks and kind of get you guys to understand, you know, the limited edition nature of fountain pen products that happens a lot. So I wanted to bring out a past edition that you can't get to kind of make you excited about future limited editions. So I'll come back to that one in just a moment. Here we have our almost dry swatch of Colorverse Dirty Red. Doug, I did not show off the exclusive that we have. Today is actually going to be all of my favorite inks of all time, but I could definitely do that one if you would like, Doug. Miss Sean Plans, how you doing? Great to see you in the chat. But as you guys can see with Colorverse Dirty Red, it just emulates, you know, that red rose so beautifully. It's not fully dry yet, so we'll give it an opportunity to dry. But you can really see how you get that really deep, almost blood red, and then it almost gets pink. You know, you definitely have those pink undertones, which are quite gorgeous, but it still reads that very mature, very kind of romantic color. So Colorverse Dirty Red is an ink that I like to use a lot for letters, or even for like journaling, you know, because it reads so dark that it's still pretty legible for journaling every single day. But typically I use this color a lot when I write letters to my partner. Mr. Mo, I know. I was thinking a lot about if I really wanted to do that, but I figured it would be a good idea just to show off, you know, the idea behind exclusive inks and why you don't want to miss out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let that one dry, and we'll go on to our next one. Let's go ahead and do another red. Purple ink 2. What would you say the quality of KWZ inks? KWZ is awesome. Definitely no problems there. So if you're going for KWZ, you'll definitely have some good stuff. Mike Hawkins, we are swatching. Thanks for the hearts. Let me catch up on these questions before I continue. What do you think of the Hongdian Black Forest? You know, I actually see that one as a super popular first pen. You know, what I would have to say is the Chinese pens have actually gotten pretty good nowadays. You know, obviously the quality for some of the less expensive brands like Jinhao or Hongdian, you know, can be a little wish-washy. You know, sometimes you just get a pen that doesn't work, and it can be really hard to get it working because they're probably not going to take care of you, you know, with post-purchase support. But, you know, for a first pen to really dip your toes in, no pen is a bad first pen, you know, as long as it gives you enjoyment and brings you into the hobby, right? That's all that matters, man. Zav Cars, does your partner just type back the response? He moderates for me, so if any of you guys get a little too wild in the chat, I don't have to worry too much about it. But he'll also answer questions that I don't have access to. So if you guys ask for like prices of some things or when something is going to come back in stock, that's what Brendan's there for. to answer everything that I can't. So, up next, I have Robert Oster, No Fixed Address. This is an ink that is just so gorgeous to me. Really gives me like a cyberpunk kind of future dystopian feel, which you guys will definitely see once I swatch it. But this is a bright red ink with iridescent blue flake. It's very, very cool. Oh, I do get letters back, but I usually give them in person. I'm usually not mailing them out, my letters, so I usually get to see their reaction in person at least. Mike Hawkins, I wish you did swatches more often. This is my favorite thing on TikTok. Well, keep that in mind, dude. I would love to do more of these. I really enjoy doing swatches and writing out people's names and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. You know, on Instagram, I used to do like full-on ink sketches, like doing ink washes and full-on sketches, which was a ton of fun. So maybe we'll bring that back this year too. All right. Dip a little bit more. Awesome. Course, no problem with the handwritten note. I love writing them. If you guys ever get a pen that is dip tested or tested and quality control checked by me at the store, I normally write a handwritten note to go along with it, just so you guys can feel confident in knowing that a real human being looked at your pen before shipping it out. Tattooed Owl by Jess. Beautiful handwriting. Thank you very, very much. I practice every single day. Okay, let me shake this bottle up really well. Here, let that settle. Put a couple dots. Try to get more of that flake out of this ink. Awesome. That kind of drain. Sweet. I wish I knew about you guys before I moved away from Chicago. Well, I wish so too, Mike. But we do ship all over the U.S. We also ship to Mexico, Canada, and the European Union. So definitely check it out. So this was Robert Oster, No Fixed Address. We'll go ahead and let this one dry so you can really see all of the beautiful shimmering effect of this ink since it's more subtle. So we'll come back to this one. Let it dry. I've tried to learn calligraphy and I kind of have an idea, but it's nowhere near yours. Well, what I'll have to say is, seriously, when I first started here at Atlas, I couldn't even remember all of my letter forms. You know, I didn't remember how to write like a cursive Z, cursive B. You know, it was really tricky to try to relearn because I was definitely just stuck at the third grade level where they kind of teach you how to do cursive in the third grade, and then by the fourth grade they like say, hey, don't write in cursive because we can't read it. So you know, my cursive was like really not that great when I first started here at Atlas, and it really was just a matter of practicing, you know, 5 to 10 minutes every single day, or 10 to 15 minutes rather, sorry. And yeah, I really don't practice that much, like 15 minutes a night. I don't really use workbooks. I just kind of look at beautiful handwriting on Instagram or Reddit or anywhere else I can find it, YouTube, and I just copy. You know, I just emulate. You know, I've been an artist like my whole life, so rendering and kind of copying from photos or images is, you know, you get a lot of practice when you're an artist doing that. So, you know, that's kind of the way I like to do it. Play hooky one day, teach me your writing, and I'll buy you lunch. Well, my boss is literally in the chat, so I'm going to say I'm not going to play hooky. But, you know, shoot us E. Davis, shoot me an email, man, and we can talk about doing something. I'd definitely be open for that. Let me try to catch up on everybody. The ink is gorgeous. I have glass quills. Tattooed Owl by Jess. I would recommend, if you like the glass pen, you should try a dip pen. You should try like a nib holder and these calligraphy nibs, because what they allow you to do is actually apply pressure on your downstrokes. You see how those tines are kind of spreading out? So on your downstrokes, that's where you get like that really beautiful kind of line variation that people have come to expect with traditional scripts. You can see here, you know, not all scripts are designed to have that line variation, but it really just adds to a level of beauty. So for me too, you know, using the flex pens gives me so much more control that I genuinely find that my handwriting is better when I'm using a flex pen, and I really have to slow down and focus on my letter forms. Whereas with, you know, a regular fountain pen or just any other kind of writing tool, I'm not really focusing so much on the letter forms individually, and my handwriting definitely gets a little bit sloppier because of that. So I would try, you know, I would try the dip pens out. You can check out the entry-level options that we have on atlasstationers.com, and it may help you improve a little bit quicker than with a quill pen, or a glass dip pen rather. I've tried those and the ink just spreads. Yeah, you know, with fountain pen inks, because they're water soluble and water based inks, they can really not stick to the fountain pen very nicely. You know, sometimes they don't play nice. Oh my God, this is glued down. These are my personal bottles of ink, by the way. Holy cow. Hold on, y'all. Oh my God, this thing is like glued down. Brendan, if you can hear me right now, could you come help me open this bottle? I'm gonna come back to that one because I can't get it open. Holy cow. You can tell I haven't used that ink in a while. But yeah, you know, if you want to make the inks more viscous for dip pens, let me be clear right now that this tip that I'm about to give you guys, this is only for dip pens. Do not use this technique if you're trying to put the pen or the ink in your fountain pen. It's not going to work. But what you can do is you can get liquid gum arabic. Put your fountain pen ink into a little vial and put just a single drop of liquid gum arabic. And what that will do is it'll thicken up the ink and make it stick to the pen a lot better. So you can write for longer on a single dip, and it will also spread less. So I would definitely recommend that. Thank you. And that, yes. All right. What's your favorite diamine ink and favorite Ferris wheel press ink? My favorite diamine ink would probably be Diamine Oxblood or Diamine Sepia, just depending on what I'm going for. Diamine Oxblood is like that really nice dried blood look. I like to use that ink a lot during Halloween, just because it's got that kind of spooky look. And then Diamine Sepia, if I'm going for that really classic kind of vintage look. Both really high quality inks. And my favorite Ferris wheel press ink, well, that's a loaded question. My favorite Ferris wheel press ink is probably Sunlit Jade. That was last year's Lunar New Year ink. It's a beautiful jade with gold flake, and I'm just a sucker for green and gold, so that's probably my favorite for that. Oh, you can't get that open? Oh no. Really? All right, cool. We can go to this ink now. Thank you. Okay, so next up, this is one of my favorite everyday inks. This is Pelikan Edelstein Moonstone. This is my favorite gray ink. The reason that I love gray ink so much is that it emulates pencil very, very well. And Pelikan Moonstone is probably my #1 choice for emulating the look of graphite. You know, it's just really fun to be able to use a fountain pen, use something permanent, but still have it look like pencil, you know, nice and light, easy on the eyes. How about a space theme ink? Yeah, you know, Colorverse actually did a collaboration with NASA. They have an ink set series called Colorverse New Horizons. It is 4 inks that are based on images that were actually captured by the New Horizons satellite. So I would check those out. Those are awesome. I would also check out the Colorverse ink set. There's the Colorverse Extreme Deep Field and Colorverse NGC 1850 that come in one set. So it's 2 inks in one set. And those are all space themed and very gorgeous. It does look black, but let me show you why this is not just a regular black ink. Awesome. How long have you been doing this? Because you are super knowledgeable. Well, thank you very much. I've been doing this for about 1.5 years. But I've been into fountain pens since like high school. So it's been about a decade for me in the hobby. Thank you very much. I try very hard to know my product well. Awesome. All right, let me try to catch up to the comments, y'all. I can't really read and write at the same time. Colorverse, Inkheart. It really depends, Jess, you know, what paper you're using, what pen you're using, and what ink you're using. It's really a trifecta when you think about fountain pens and just the writing experience, the pen, the ink, and the paper are all equally important when it comes to the overall writing experience. So for example, if we use, you know, a really wet ink, for example, another one that I'm going to do today is Iroshizuku Yama Budo. This is known as quite a wet ink. So if I were to pair this with a wet writing pen, you know, if I were to pair that ink with like my Peniter Alchemist, which is known for being just like a fire hose of a pen, combining that with a very thin, lightweight paper like Tomoe River, you know, I would say it would literally take all day for the ink to dry. And I'm not really exaggerating by that. It takes forever for that type of combo to dry. But if I were to use a drier writing ink like Pelikan Moonstone here, you know, one of the lighter saturated colors, so it's going to dry a little bit quicker. If I paired that with a really thick paper, like the Leuchtturm 120 GSM or Ferris Press's Sketchbook, which is 160 GSM, you know, because the paper is thicker, it can absorb the ink better, and that's going to help the ink dry faster overall. So it's really a combination of things for how long the ink takes to dry. But that's a good rule of thumb, is darker colors are more saturated. They also dry a little bit longer, whereas light colors dry faster. Is a general rule of thumb. That's not always the hard and fast rule. GSM stands for grams per square meter. So basically the way they measure the paper weight is that they take a square meter of the paper and they weigh it out, and whatever that measurement is what it is. So for like the American measurement, the imperial measurement, I believe they take a square foot of the paper and then they measure how many pounds it weighs. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. So thicker paper equals faster drying ink, more or less. You know, you still have to consider the pen and the ink, but more or less, yep. Yes, this Moonstone is still available. So this is Pelikan Moonstone. Yes, Shuttle Ghosty brings up a great point. Rougher or glossier paper will also affect drying times. Yep, so this is like my #1 pencil ink. You can really tell, you know, it really looks like a 2B or B pencil. Just really gorgeous everyday ink. But it's still a little bit elevated. I don't know if you guys can tell, but you get just the very slightest purple hues when it's very heavily saturated. Like, I don't know if you can kind of see it in the light there, but you get this very slight kind of cooler tone underneath that I really appreciate. So it's like your standard gray ink, but it's not quite boring, right? So that's Pelikan Edelstein Moonstone, atlasstationers.com. Awesome. Here, before we move on, let's go back. These are dried for the most part now. So here is a dried Colorverse Dirty Red. You can see it mimics that rose red just perfectly. You know, any shade of red rose that you've ever gotten for Valentine's Day, which is coming up, y'all. I'm going to do a Valentine's special live stream, I think on the 31st. Always nice to see a fellow artist. Yeah, that purple undertone really helps elevate the ink and make it just a little bit more than just a standard gray. But you can see here with Colorverse, you also get a little bit of sheening, so it really does emulate rose so beautifully, because not only do you have this beautiful red ink, but you also get the green shade, so you get the rose and the petals in one ink, which is very gorgeous to see. You can kind of see a little bit of that green sheening right there, just subtly. Awesome. And then this one's still a little bit wet, but we can really see how gorgeous it is. Look at that. Like the R in Robert there, all of this beautiful blue flake. So this one's just a really punchy vermilion, you know, a little bit of that orange shade. It's not a true red. It's got a little bit of orange hue to it, just slightly, ever so slightly. But what you get is this gorgeous combination with the blue flake. You know, this ink came out kind of around the time that Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, got released. So it really put me in this kind of cyberpunk, like vaporwave mood. So I really fell in love with this ink right away because of that. Can the Lamy Safari nibs be changed? Yes. And E. Davis, we have the pens, the fountain pen nibs for Lamy for $14. So atlasstationers.com. Look up Lamy spare nib or Lamy Safari nib, and you should see the listing for about $14. You know, even better, come to the store and we can fit the nib on for you. But just look at how awesome this ink is. It's so beautiful, so special. Such a futuristic vibe out of a 100-plus-year-old hobby. Pretty cool to see. Hey, getting paid tomorrow. That's what I like to hear. Awesome. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so next up is my favorite shimmering ink of all time. This is Chakra Shogun. The reason that I consider this definitively my favorite shimmering ink is not only is it a very mature color, whereas fountain pen inks typically, you know, obviously like this one, it's very bright, very fun. This one's definitely got a more mature feel to it despite being a shimmering ink, but it's also one of the highest performing shimmering inks I've ever used. If we take a look at the flake on the bottom, just look at how it just wants to slosh off almost immediately. You can see here, it's just moving. It's not clumping up. It moves around quite easily and it stays suspended in the ink with no issues. If I kind of mix this up and not spill water all over the place, geez. When I mix this up, you know, it stays suspended in the ink so well and for such an extended period of time. So it just plays very friendly with any fountain pen, any dip pen, and it's such a beautiful color. The story behind it is also quite interesting. So this ink was a special collaboration between Chakra and Kenzo Tanaka, who is a famous Japanese designer who founded the K3 brand. If you guys are familiar with streetwear, K3 is pretty popular. So the idea with Chakra was they were going to do an entire series of ink with Kenzo Tanaka, but unfortunately, he passed away, I believe, in October of 2020. So this was the only ink that they were able to make together before his passing. So not only is it just a very gorgeous ink that was curated by, you know, a legend in the fashion industry, but, you know, it's also, you know, an amazing piece of history because, you know, he died so soon after formulating this ink. So, you know, very special place in my heart, this ink. My Knighter Alchemist here has literally only ever been paired with this ink. I've never put any other ink in this pen besides Chakra Shogun, and you guys will see why in just a moment. Let me go ahead and get started. E. Davis, thanks for tuning in. Yep, Shodogosti, excellent suggestion for people who are just getting into the hobby or looking to explore colors. The Ferris Press charger packs are a great way to test out all the inks in the new series before committing to a full-size bottle. Ferris Press typically releases inks in threes. So with the release of their new ink, since they do it in a series of three, they also release a charger set, which is a sampler pack of all of the new inks. So that's how they're packaged together, is by release. But it's a great way to try out all of the colors without spending money on an entire bottle. Look, even just dipping, you can see how much flake stays in the ink and how well it stays suspended. All right, let's go for it.
Right there in Germany. No, they're in Hoboken, New Jersey.
I'm a lefty, Jess. I'm left-handed. What is the name of your pen, not the dip pen? This pen? This pen right here is the Peniter Alchemist in Stromboli Black. H's are my favorite to write in calligraphy. I'm a big fan of the H. It's just super simple and fluid. You're right-handed and you smudge? That's a rarity. What I would recommend is really try to focus on attacking your ink, your line, your writing. Instead of from the side, really try to focus on going from underneath. So if you're a righty, I'll pretend like I'm a righty. Instead of going sideways like this, try to go lower like this. It really helps keep your hands off the ink. It can be tricky. You know, your handwriting will definitely get worse before it gets better, but it is worth the effort. Trust me. I doubt you're horrible. Everybody, you know, needs practice in life. We all have to practice everything that we want to be good at. So don't feel bad about where you're at. You should be proud of how far you've come.
Are there any that are particularly paired well to the type of Beryl that you have?
Even the Q-tip looks gorgeous. All right, this one is probably going to take a while to dry, but right away, I mean, just look at how well the flake stays suspended in the ink. Normally, you can't really see the flake when it's in such a wet, saturated section, but it just stays suspended so well. So we're going to go ahead and give this a moment to dry, and then we'll come back to it. Took me almost 30 years to learn how to grip a pen properly. Yeah, dude, same. Well, I'm not 30, so not same. But I wrote as a lefty. You know, I wrote with a hook grip my whole life. It really wasn't even until after college that I switched from four-finger hook. So I was holding my pen like this, causing a lot of strain on myself. Went from four-finger hook. I went sideways and started switching to three-finger, but I was kind of between 3 and 4 fingers, and then slowly went to a traditional calligrapher's grip where you pinch the sides of the pen, gently resting it on your middle finger, allowing me to write very comfortably all day long. So I went from hook grip, I couldn't write more than a single page of notes without cramping, and now I can write all day long, no problem. So really, really try to focus on your handwriting posture if you're having issues with handwriting, whether it comes to smearing, whether it comes to actual handwriting quality, or even comfort. You know, if you're finding that you guys get tired or, you know, you start to feel physical pain when you're writing, there's something probably up with your handwriting posture that can be fixed, and, you know, you can learn to enjoy handwriting even more. Yeah, if you're a righty, Jess, you should look up Palmer style. Palmer style is the handwriting technique that was taught to us in school. I believe they started implementing Palmer style in like the 20s or 30s, and it was up until very recently where they stopped teaching handwriting in most schools. But Palmer style not only is a style of handwriting, but it is also a style of posturing. The way that you sit at a desk, the way that you hold a pen, the way that you think about how you're supposed to write. You know, instead of writing with your fingers, instead of writing with your wrist, you are writing with your whole arm, and you are, you know, not keeping your hand in one place. It is the most ideal way to write. Even I don't really write that way, but, you know, it is a more kind of proper way to write without pain. Yep, Palmer style. Okay, so next up, let's do this one. This is my favorite ink of all time. This is by far my number one. Iroshizuku Yama Budo. Yama Budo translates roughly to wild grapes. In Japanese, it is all of the Iroshizuku inks are based on natural phenomenon, natural kind of plants and fauna in Japan, which is really beautiful to see. You know, not only are they finding inspiration from nature, but they are recreating it in fountain pen inks just on another level. So let's go ahead and get right into it. My favorite ink of all time. This is actually my second bottle too of Yama Budo. I have totally emptied out one bottle already. So if that isn't a way to tell that I genuinely love this ink, I don't know what'll get you there. Michonne plans, we ship out all of our orders like usually within 48 hours from when you purchase it. If you order earlier in the day, you have a higher chance of getting your shipment out on that day, but it also really depends on how many orders we have to get through. So a lot of factors, but you can always do the expedited shipping to jump the queue if you need to get stuff as quick as possible. You can see my bees are still a bit of a weak spot for me. I'm not really great at the bees, even to this day. Y'all need an Atlas doodle. So I put a smiley face little cartoon character on every card that I write for online orders. So if you guys get an online order and I've done the card, normally I put my name on it, not always, but I usually draw a little nib cartoon character. Here, once I do this swatch, I'll show you guys my little cartoon character that I like to draw. D's I'm a lot better at than B's. B's just make no sense to me. D's are easy. Let me show you a little trick with the D, and it'll really help you out. Let's let this one dry, but just look at how gorgeous it is right away. I mean, it's just obvious why this is like my favorite fountain pen ink of all time and why this is like a lot of people's most favorite ink. It's just so gorgeous, so vibrant, you know, so elevated. But it still reads. It's still very legible. It's still got that professional look because it does end up drying a little bit dark when you're writing. But if you want to really maximize the potential properties, the dark to light is also phenomenal. Oh, I love a G. I love a Z. All right, let me grab a fountain pen. All right, here's my pro tip with Ds. So with a D, you know, sometimes a lot of people just kind of go straight into the ascender. But what happens with that is you kind of end up with the loop that ends up too skinny or too small. You know, something's kind of going up that imbalances the letter. What I like to do for D's is write an O, right? Do an O. Stop right here where it connects and go out and around. what you end up with is a much more balanced letter that is a little bit more voluminous, a little bit more full, and significantly more legible, especially if you're writing quickly. So let's do that again. So you do a circle, you know, depending on your overall letter, you can kind of go skinnier if you're going for that skinnier, slimmer look, or you can go for a full circle. And then you want to come out and go back in. And depending on, you know, that original circle, you can see how much more defined this loop here is on this D versus just going straight into the ascender without changing your angle of attack. So when you stop and go out, you kind of end up with this shape, right? And that can really add a lot more definition to your ascender, just like that. And you can implement this technique into a lot of different letter forms. So for example, E's, you know, E's are one of those letters that people can kind of get lost in the sauce when you're writing an E. So if I don't change my angle of attack, you know, that almost looks like an I. It can kind of look like an O sometimes. It can kind of just get totally lost. You know, if I go like this, like that's an E, but you can't even see the loop. So it's very ambiguous. So what you can do with your E's is go up and out. And look at how much more definition there is. And then you just hide that change in angle with your downstroke. The same way that you would with your D, you kind of hide that change in angle on your downstroke, and it really can improve the legibility, just like that. So try that out. It should help you out a lot. Thank you for the roses. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The green gold sheen in Yama Budo is gorgeous. It's technically a green sheen, you're right, but it reads gold so beautifully. I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry fully. Let's go back real quick, y'all, to Shogun now that it's dried. So this is Jacques Herbin Shogun. A beautiful gray black, like a charcoal black, with just so much of that bronze sheening. I'm maybe halfway through this bottle, about halfway empty, and I still have so much of that shimmer. It's so well saturated, and they give you, you know, a very healthy amount of that mica. It's just absolutely so gorgeous. It reads so beautifully, but again, it's very professional. It's very kind of, you know, not over the top, which I tend to enjoy more when it comes to fountain pen inks. So I can really, really appreciate Jacques Herbin Shogun, Kenzo Tanaka, rest in peace. But your legacy lives on, even in an industry that you maybe didn't think you'd end up in. Beautiful thing. Awesome. All right. So I've done all these, done these. Okay, so here is my last favorite ink. This is Pelikan Golden Beryl. This ink took the fountain pen world by storm when it came out, but there's no real other way to show it off than to just do it. I mean, just look at when you shake up that bottle. I mean, look at that. It's like liquid gold. Isn't that so amazing? I heard this really cute story online that this person bought fountain pen inks like this, the shimmery inks, and their kids will just sneak into their fountain pen ink drawer just to shake up the bottles and look at them. And I just thought that was so freaking adorable. Just look at that. It's like a lava lamp. Awesome. Let's just put that upside down for a sec. I'm very hopeful for the next generation of kids to get into this hobby. I've actually worked with a couple of parents at the shop to pick out their kids' first fountain pens. And it's so wholesome. It's so much fun. And it's just really like, it gives me a lot of hope for this hobby to stand the test of time. I actually got a thank you kind of Christmas card from a parent and one of their kids. And it melted my heart to get a beautifully written letter in cursive from a 7-year-old. I don't even think, like, if they were still teaching handwriting in school, I don't even think a 7-year-old is in the 3rd grade. Am I right on that? I don't know, but you know, it's super impressive to see, you know, someone so young find interest in this hobby all on their own. It gives me a lot of hope. Seven is usually like the 1st or 2nd grade. Yeah. See, you know, they're not even like in the 3rd grade and they're already interested in handwriting and cursive. So freaking wholesome. They just started teaching cursive here in Alabama. That's great to hear. Honestly, it's, you know, I get the importance of prioritizing, you know, computer skills and typing skills. It is, you know, the new age, the new world. And I definitely still agree that takes priority. But to deny the opportunity to improve hand-eye coordination and to teach cursive is honestly just doing a disservice to the next generation of kids. Because if you think about it, you know, a young child growing up in this new generation, you know, they potentially may grow up not being able to read the Constitution, you know, not being able to read the Bill of Rights, not being able to read so many amazing historical documents, you know, because they were never taught cursive, and it's not their fault, but, you know, we're only setting people up for failure when we kind of, you know, stray away from our history like that. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm being preachy, but I still think it's very important. Jesse, this is just a dip pen from home. The nib holder is like literally nothing fancy at all. I'm pretty sure it's like a $4 nib holder. Let me really saturate this. I want to show off just how gorgeous this ink is. Awesome. All right, this may take forever to dry now, but trust me, y'all, it'll be worth it. Ben, you gave fountain pens to all your kids for Christmas? Dude, good on you, man. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. Jesse, so yeah, this is just like a super cheap dip holder. I mean, you can see it's just injection molded plastic. There's the seam right there. You can get these nib holders for like $2 to $4 online. And then this is an Esterbrook 920 radio nib. I don't know if you can get these nibs anymore. This nib may very well be like 40 to 50 plus years old. So I don't know if you can get them anymore, but I'm very fortunate to have access to a whole box of them. All right, I'm gonna let this dry so we can really appreciate how gorgeous it is, but already it's looking good. Let's take this moment to go back to Yama Budo. And then I saw who commented Spruce County Post is actually one of my favorite greens, so I will definitely do that one. I just have to make sure I have a bottle of it. But I will test Spruce County Post. I don't know, Doug, if you're still in the chat, but I'm also going to do Atlas Iron Ore. Wouldn't be a swatching stream if I didn't do our in-house ink. But look at this. This is my favorite ink of all time. This is Iroshizuku Yama Budo, which translates to wild grapes. It's just an absolutely gorgeous wine red. that does sheen, as you can see there. It's a beautiful green sheen, but over the purple, it actually looks gold. So it's just this very royal, very elegant look that I can't get enough of. Do the Wearingeul exclusive? Sure. Let me get one of my coworkers to grab these inks for us. Hey Spencer, do you have can I get something real quick?
Yeah, sure. What's that?
Can you see if we have a sample of Ferris Wheel Press Spruce County Post?
A sample?
And then can I also get the Wearingeul 12th Night, if we have a sample or if we just pull it off the shelf?
Of either of them?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Of both of them. Are you bleeding? No, this is just ink. It's just ink. This ink is out of stock. Yeah, Iroshizuku is a little bit light right now, Emma, but we're going to restock really soon. So if you see that it's out of stock, just sign up for the restock notification, because Iroshizuku restocks quite quickly, quite regularly. So don't be worried. You'll still be able to get it. Melody Heart, you're going to have such a great time with the Ferris Wheel Press inks. Definitely stock up. There we go. Brendan in the chat, restock in about 2 weeks. Not allowed to play with markers. Why not? That's no fun. All right, let's go ahead and do this while Spencer grabs those other inks for me. So here we have Ferris Wheel Press Atlas Iron Ore, which is a great gray kind of blue-black ink with a beautiful silver sheen, or shimmer rather, should I say. Okay, that works. Thanks, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see again, it's a very well saturated ink. This is my #1 test of ink quality, is how well does it stay on a dip pen. Obviously, this isn't indicative of how good of a quality it is for fountain pens, because fountain pens don't have to do this whole thing. But for me, it's a great way to tell overall ink quality. Thanks, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't bother shaking it too much. It's going to take me forever to get to it. Thanks, dude. Oh God, those E's all over the place. Ferris Wheel Press also has the huge benefit of having a super long name that's really fun to write out. Awesome. Oh, Brian coming out of left field in the chat saying Golden Beryl should be back in stock this week. That is such exciting news, because I was literally showing off this ink because you guys couldn't get it anymore, just to really stress the importance of not waiting too long for exclusive or limited edition inks. But everybody, go ahead and thank Brian in the chat for acquiring more Golden Beryl for us. That's super sick. Golden Beryl, it's coming back. Oh my God. Oh, this lid is a little damaged. All right, let's do the swatch here. This ink is literally based on metal. You would be right, Shuttle. The most metal ink that I think I've actually seen would probably be Wearingeul No Longer Human. or no, it's called Wearingeul Human Problem or Human Issues. I've heard a couple translations, but I think on our website it's Human Issues, Human Problems. I don't even know, but that is probably the most metal ink. It is like the truest blood red that I have ever seen a fountain pen ink produce. Okay. God, such a gorgeous ink. Y'all sold out of iron ore? Definitely not. I don't think so. So, y'all, I would just say right now, if you guys are interested in some of the sold out inks, sign up for the restock notification today. You know, usually when we get those limited inks back in stock, they sell out again very, very quickly because there is a lot of people, like you all in the chat, that missed out on the original opportunities to buy the ink, and they're dying for another chance to get it. So if you guys are interested in Golden Beryl, I would not wait at all, because it's going to go very quickly. For example, we brought in Ferris Press, the Purple Jade Rabbit ink, and we brought in like 100 some bottles. It sold out basically immediately. And then in our restock notifications, we had 80 plus restock notifications as soon as it sold out. So bringing in another 100 bottles, potentially 80 of those bottles are already accounted for. So that goes to show just how, you know, exclusive these inks can be. So you really don't want to wait too long. Yep, the shading on this is gorgeous. So Atlas Iron Ore, if you guys don't know, Atlas Stationers is in one of the historic Chicago buildings, one of the last remaining cast iron buildings in Chicago. So all of the pillars on the outside of our store, here, let me switch my camera real quick. I don't know if I can, I don't know if you guys can see, like this pillar right here, maybe this one right here, there's another right there. Those pillars are made out of solid cast iron, which is just crazy. But it's one of the last remaining cast iron buildings in Chicago. So this ink is meant to emulate kind of the look of the outside of our storefront and the, you know, kind of pay an homage to the building that allows us to have our shop and to have so much fun every day. So you can really see that beautiful iron color. You get a little bit of that rustic look because it sheens reddish brown. So that sheening comes through quite well. You can see there, you know, it really gives you that kind of rusted over look. And then you have the beautiful silver flake to really elevate the overall aesthetic. You can kind of see there in the text now that that's dried. Shuttle, get on the charger. Close out all your other apps. The stream is all that matters. For real though, you should charge your phone. You don't want to be caught out like that. Okay, so somebody was asking for Spruce County Post. Shuttle, I think that was you. So let's try to do this before your phone dies. Hey Spencer, there's supposed to be like a little rubber kind of thing here. Did it come out?
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Necessary.
Yes.
I know it's closing.
Awesome. Literally walking my dog and watching. That's awesome. Say hi to the pup. Make sure you look both ways before you cross the streets. All right. So here we have Spruce County Post. Ferris wheel press. Oh boy. Botching it a little bit here. Oh, that got sloppy. Sorry about that, y'all. Dog says bark. That's what's up. This is one of my favorite greens that have come out. My favorite green of all time is probably Anderillium Green Kingfisher Green. But I couldn't bring all of my ink bottles to work. But I love this green. It is such a beautiful, like, purely cool tone green. Green's one of those unique colors that can go both ways in terms of being a cool color or a warm color. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I just got ink all over myself. 1 second, y'all. I gotta clean this up. Anyways. Oh, God, look at that. Rough. Ferris wheel press, Spruce County Post. Just a really gorgeous, like, winter evergreen color. It just gets so beautifully cool tone. You know, unlike a lot of green inks that have that kind of yellow undertone, this one really doesn't. You can get the very slightest hints of that yellowy tone where it's really saturated, but it's not really apparent. And as you can see in these lighter tones, it's almost more of a gray base rather than a yellow base. So it's a really gorgeous green color that just reads, you know, again, very professionally, a little bit darker, which I tend to prefer. An ink wish list going, it's crazy. I mean, eventually you'll end up like all of us. I have like over 60 inks in my collection. It's not okay because I have like 60 fountain pen inks in my collection and I use like maybe 5 of them because I'm just trying to get through the bottles. Oh, Shawnee, we were just talking about that. The younger generation definitely needs to, even if they're not learning how to write cursive, they should definitely learn how to read cursive. Mike, welcome back. So, Spruce County Post, that one is for you. Shuttle. Okay, let's go back. Let's go backwards. This is Pelican Edelstein Golden Beryl. Oh, I forgot to cross my T. Let's do that real quick. I don't suppose you can compare it to Peter Moss? Sure. Give me 1 second, all right? There you go, cross the T. Hey, Spencer. Could you grab me the swatch for Ferris wheel press Peter Moss? Thank you. All right, if you guys all don't say thank you, Spencer, in the chat, I'm going to be upset because he's been helping me out so much. Awesome. And just look at how gorgeous this ink is. An absolute ton of gold flake. You can see it's still a little bit wet and the gold flake is still saturated in the wet ink. That's impressive. Oh, you're getting lots of thank you Spencers in the chat. Yeah. Rightfully so. You're good welcome. On you guys. Spencer says you're welcome. Oh, sorry, Spencer. One more. Could you also grab me Sunlit Jade? Thanks, dude. The swatch. Man, you're putting them to work. I'm starting to run out of time too, guys. I'm going to have to hurry up here. We're going to do one more swatch, and then I got to call it because we're running way over time. But just look at how gorgeous this is. You know, you really get that light kind of lemony yellow, but at the same time, that deep kind of burnt orange look. Just a really amazing multi-shader with a ton of gold flake. And we are getting more of this week, hopefully. I doubt that we're going to get very many bottles, so do not wait. Sign up for the restock notification as soon as you get that email. Buy it right away. Add all the other items to your cart that you want to buy beforehand because it's going to go quick, so do not wait. Running out of time conveniently at 4:20. No comment, dude. Don't say that. Okay, here is Spruce County Post versus Peter Moss. So this is what I'm talking about. Peter Moss is, again, a very beautiful green, but it is like that pure yellow undertone that makes it totally different from a cool tone green. Can you recommend a good navy blue? I really enjoy Iroshizuku Shinkai. Iroshizuku Shinkai. So there's the comparison. And then here's Sunlit Jade. Colorverse Cape May is also a really good one. That one does sheen red quite a bit, though. So if you don't want that red sheening, I would maybe favor for Shinkai. So this is Ferris Wheel Press Sunlit Jade. Everyone's got their favorites in the chat. Prussian Blue is also very good. But yeah, this is just such a beautiful combo. And the Lunar New Year is one of the few holidays that I do celebrate and take a little bit more seriously. So, you know, this one being a collaboration with Fête Chinois, a Canadian company organization that focuses on bringing or encouraging Asian people to kind of become more in touch with their culture and the tradition. I can definitely appreciate that. And to create an ink for the Lunar New Year is just that special cherry on top. Awesome, y'all. All right. I have to keep going because I'm running out of time. We've got one more ink to show off. This is the other Atlas Stationers exclusive. This is William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, an ink done by Wearingeul. And look at that. It's a dusty pink with iridescent baby blue flake. Exclusives are always the best. And just look at that ink in the bottle. It's such a wild look. Yes, South Korean. Wearingeul, South Korean. As I said before, the Korean brands are absolutely dominating the pen game. In my opinion, the Korean inks are just in another league. Not definitively, of course. You know, a lot of pen brands, or a lot of ink brands rather, have like absolutely, you know, top tier inks, but just consistency across the entire brand. I have to commend Wearingeul for their quality. I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't know how to pronounce your name, but light pinks are quite rare, and good light pinks are even more rare at that. So you really enjoy this one. Yeah, Mike. There's a product called Amodex. It's spelled Amodex. Amodex, if someone wants to type that out in the chat. It's an all-natural ink and stain remover that I cannot recommend enough. Like this, if I use Amodex on this right now, before I wash my hands with just soap and water, this is going to completely come off. Or at least almost completely come off. There you go, Amodex. You can find it anywhere online. It's pretty inexpensive. I would recommend that if you guys are into fountain pens, absolutely keep a bottle of Amodex on hand. It's going to keep your hands clean. All right, this is going to be a little tricky to swatch. Let's do it. This is such a light color that it really wants to fall off this nib. As you can see here, it just kind of falls straight off the nib. Let's go ahead and retry that. And this is where that technique that I was talking about earlier, if I were to separate this ink into a separate vial and use liquid gum Arabic, I could get it to stick to this calligraphy pen with no problem without affecting the qualities of the ink itself. Oh, what an ugly T. It's all right. It's still legible. It's all that matters. Left-handed. Yes, I am left-handed. Alvin W. Thank you. I actually learned this W from Ralph, so that's all Ralph. And then, Milby asked, what's the most expensive ink you have? Probably anything from the Chakra line. Anything from the Chakra line tends to be above $30, which is quite expensive for ink. We're not like Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc has like very expensive, like sometimes $70 inks, which can be very, ridiculous. But yeah, not the most expensive options on the market, but definitely premium for us. Thank you. It's As You Wish Boutique. Thank you. Mike, my number one suggestion to you is try to write from underneath the line. So I'm guessing you write with a hook, writing like this. Try writing from underneath the line. Your handwriting is definitely going to get worse before it gets better, but I cannot recommend it enough. And that is coming from somebody who wrote sideways my whole life. As a kid growing up, as an adult in college, and it wasn't until like a year, 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, that I switched to writing from underneath the line, and that can almost entirely eliminate smearing ink, as you write from left to right on a page. No, this is Atlas Stationers. We are a brick and mortar stationery and fountain pen shop located in downtown Chicago in the Loop, Franklin and the Lake. So we're doing this every single day except Sunday. We're closed. Well, Mike, I'm really glad that you had an opportunity to get some more formal training for your handwriting, but I would say if your tutor did not recommend trying to write from under, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, because that is one of the best ways to improve comfort in handwriting and improve your handwriting quality overall and kind of eliminate smearing as a lefty, is to really try to focus on writing from below the line. And just depending on your grip, like if you use 4-finger grip, that's totally acceptable. But I would highly recommend trying to switch to a 3-finger grip as well. When you are resting your pen on your ring finger instead of your middle finger, you're activating a entirely different tendon. So if you're using your middle finger, your index finger, and your thumb, those are all kind of their own tendon in your arm. Your ring finger and your pinky finger are kind of more connected. Sometimes, it's not always the case. But because of that, you can fatigue yourself a lot faster because you're literally using a larger portion of your entire arm just by incorporating your ring finger instead of your middle finger. And then also when you're hooking, all of those tendons that go up your arm, all of those tendons, I know I can't really zoom out anymore, but all of these tendons that go up your entire arm are more strained and more activated when you write with a hook from over the line. So as you kind of train yourself to go further and further back, you'll find that you're much more relaxed and you're literally activating less muscle when you're writing from underneath the line. It can really help you a lot. So I highly recommend it. And here we go. This is Wearingeul 12th Night, the Atlas Stationers exclusive with beautiful blue ink. Let's go ahead and let this one dry for a moment, and we'll just do one last overview of all the inks that we did. Mike, no problem, man. And if you forget anything I've told you, or if you need more advice, shoot me an email, alvin@atlasstationers.com. Please, no marketing emails. But, you know, I would highly recommend shooting me an email if you would like a couple more tips, because I'm more than happy to help out. But here in front of me, I have all of my favorite inks of all time. Let's go ahead and start from the top. We have Pelikan Moonstone, my #1 gray ink, my #1 graphite replica ink. You know, I grew up as an artist, and I only ever did graphite art. I literally refused to do anything else but graphite and charcoal, a little bit of charcoal, until college. So, you know, graphite definitely holds a special place in my heart. So to have an ink that replicates graphite so well is very impressive. So Pelikan Edelstein Moonstone. Thank you for that. Shuttle Ghosty, I will go back and do that. Robert Oster No Fixed Address is probably my #1 fun ink. Fun being it's a very vibrant color with very bright shimmer, which is typically like not what I go for when it comes to fountain pen inks, but this one is just so gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful, punchy vermilion red with such a striking contrast with the blue flake. Like I said before, it really gives me that kind of cyberpunk, you know, outrun aesthetic that I really enjoy. Can't get enough of that. I've done a couple of art pieces with this ink. If you scroll like super far down on our Instagram, when I used to do the lives on Instagram, you can actually see me do an ink sketch with this ink live. So that was a lot of fun. It may be hard to find, but it's in there, I think, somewhere. My favorite red ink, my favorite ink based on nature, I guess you could say, Colorverse Dirty Red. Just an absolutely beautiful rose red. Has a lot of shading potential from the darkest, almost black green sheen there, all the way to the lightest tones here. You can see it gets almost pink. Really represents, you know, that red rose look so beautifully. Love using this ink for Valentine's Day. Love using this ink for Christmas. You know, I pretty much always use this ink for love letters. So if that gives you guys an idea. My favorite shimmering ink of all time here is Shogun. Absolutely unmatched in terms of quality and ink flow when it comes to shimmering inks. Like I said earlier, the flake just stays so beautifully suspended. You don't have to shake up the bottle very much to get it to fully distribute. And it stays suspended in the ink bottle, in the pen for such a long time that you never have to worry about flowing, even with such heavy deposits of flake. So my favorite shimmering ink, Shogun. And my favorite calligraphy imitation ink, I kind of put this, I made up that category for this stream. Calligraphy inks do such an amazing job at really giving you such a gorgeous metallic look that fountain pen ink just doesn't quite hit a lot of the times. And Pelikan Edelstein Golden Beryl is just such an excellent example of an ink that looks like calligraphy ink. You get such heavy gold deposits while still flowing very nicely in the fountain pens and not clogging. And then you just get that elevated look with that kind of orange halo that you get on all of your letters on the downstrokes when you apply pressure. As you can see here in the swatch, you get this very heavy orange deposits and just a beautiful sunflower yellow underneath everything that just really gives it a beautiful base to start out with. As you can see, this ink is still wet because I put so much on there. But my kind of favorite calligraphy-esque ink, calligraphy imitation ink, Pelikan Edelstein Golden Beryl. Mike, it depends on the context. You know, if you're in an office setting, I would definitely not use shimmering ink. Reason being, you know, not only for the aesthetic, but also if you're trying to copy, if you're trying to make copies of something that you're writing down, the shimmering can affect how it looks when it comes out of the scanner. So consider that. And then here we go. My favorite fountain pen ink of all time, Iroshizuku Yama Budo. It's such a good ink. This is actually my second bottle of Yama Budo. I've completely cleared out one. Just a beautiful wine grape red that has the propensity to give you that really beautiful gold sheening. It's technically a green sheen, but in that purple, it just looks gold. Very royal sort of look out of this ink. I just can't get enough of Yama Budo. And those were my favorites of all time, y'all. Moonstone, Robert Oster, No Fixed Address, sorry, Pelikan Moonstone, Colorverse Dirty Red, Chakra Shogun, Iroshizuku Yama Budo, and Pelikan Edelstein Golden Beryl. And then just to show off one last time, here is the mostly dried Wearingeul 12th Night. This is the Atlas Stationer's exclusive. Absolutely gorgeous, dusty pink. As you can see, it's still very readable too, which is very impressive. I really don't like the pastel colored inks that can be really hard to read on text. So to see such deepness and richness because it's a more dusty pink rather than a pastel pink, very impressive. And that gorgeous blue flake on top just really elevates the look. And this is exclusive, limited edition, so don't wait too long to buy it because it may run out. Of course, the other exclusive, Ferris Wheel Press Atlas Iron Ore, one of our most popular inks of all time. Just a very gorgeous cast iron aesthetic with that rustic bronze red sheen and that silver bluish flake. And then we also swatched this one just for Shuttle Ghosty. That's Spruce County Post. And then you asked me to compare Atlas Iron Ore to Moonstone, I think. If you're still here, let me do that for you. Here we have Moonstone versus Atlas Iron Ore. So you can see a much lighter gray versus that really deep blue-black. And then very neutral all throughout with that just touch of purple that I really, really think elevates the look while still keeping true to that kind of graphite aesthetic that I tried to reach for. Yep, much darker, whereas this one definitely reads more like graphite. But two different purposes out of these inks, but just for you, Shuttle. All right, I literally have to close this whole store in like 20 minutes, so I gotta jump out. I gotta help my team close up shop. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, having a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for all the interactions in the chat, all the comments and questions. It really means a lot to me that you guys are so involved in the live streams. Really makes this worthwhile to do every single week. But yeah. Stay tuned for next week. Hopefully we have some new product to show off. And then on the 31st, the last Tuesday of the month, I think that I'm going to do a Valentine's Day special where I'm going to break down the art of letter writing and the art of writing a love letter. I think maybe we'll just write up a love letter on the live stream. I think it's good timing because my girlfriend comes back into town like right after that. So I think that'll be a fun idea. We can all work together to surprise her with a beautiful letter. So let's go ahead and do that on the 31st. But next week, let's focus back on Tuesdays with Alvin regular, doing new product. And yes, Mike, we'll definitely do some more live swatching. Thank you guys one last time, and I will see you next week.